So, you want to get into resin craft. Hey guys, it's Amy here, and as you guys may have noticed, a couple of months ago I posted a video where I tried resin craft for the first time, and ever since then I've been able to think about nothing else, and I set up a Depop to sell all my things, and my entire life has been consumed by resin craft, and I've spent like £300, and oh my god, I need to be stopped. I've seen a lot of people talking in the groups that I'm in about where do I even start? Where do I begin? How do I get into this? What do I do? There's so much information. I'm not an expert at all, but I am going to walk you through the process of making, like, we're going to say like some earrings, okay? You want to make some earrings, and I'm going to tell you right from the beginning to the end how you make, and let's say you're going to sell them on Depop like I do, every step of the way from beginning to end of selling these earrings. Obviously you probably want to like spend more money and like buy some more things and like do some practices and make more things than just earrings, but this is just like an example of all the things that you're going to need to think about and all the things that you're going to need to buy. Does that make sense? You're on board? Cool, let's go. So the first thing that I want you to think about is resin craft for you? Now, before you go, yes, Amy, I've watched all the cool TikToks and Instagram videos and I've seen all the people posting in the groups and I've been looking at all the things. It's definitely for me. I have some questions that I want you to answer first. Is there anyone in your house who may be vulnerable to the fumes? I really want you to think about this because the amount of people who I've seen posting stuff where they're like, my kid runs into the room while I'm doing it, or I have a cat that likes to sit and watch me doing it, or I'm pregnant. You should not be doing this. Resin is toxic when you don't use it properly. Like, even when you do use it properly, but you need to be careful with how you use it. When you mix the two parts of the resin together, it will off-gas. That gas, if you breathe it in, is dangerous. You do not want to get this on your skin, any part A, part B, or the mixed part before it is cured on your skin. It can cause serious burns, it can cause serious allergic reactions. If you breathe in this stuff in all the time, it can cause permanent lung damage. There's so many stories of people getting very ill from mistreating this. Now, you can protect yourself, but you are making the decision to do this. As long as you're making an informed decision, that is fine. If you've decided that you don't want to wear a mask, that you don't want to wear gloves, that's your decision. But you cannot put this on the people around you. It is not fair on them for you to make that decision for them. I'm not trying to scare people off at all. I just really want people to take this seriously. It could really damage the health of people in your house, and that's on you. The second thing that I want you to think about is, can I financially do this? The only reason I was able to do it was because we are during lockdown and I'm spending less money because I went home when I started doing this. Otherwise, financially, I would not have been able to do this. It's going to take you a lot of money to start this stuff up. If you are looking to sell, I would say don't look at making profit for the first year. And even after that, you're probably not going to make that much profit. I'm currently sitting at about minus £300 for my Depop, and I'm not even close to the realm of making profit, and I didn't expect to be, and you shouldn't expect to be either. So you really need to think about, can you afford this? It is an expensive hobby. And the third thing I want you to think about is, do you have a safe place to do this? I didn't think about this before I started, and I wish that I had, but it's turned out okay, luckily. But you can do this outside. You're still going to need to wear a mask, and you're still going to need to wear gloves. Even if you do it outside, you should also cover your arms. I don't do that sometimes, but you should cover. You should not have any skin exposed to the resin because it can burn your skin. But you also need somewhere to wait for the resin to cure. So I would give it my resin takes about 2 days to cure. I give it a full 3 just to be safe. And sometimes a resin takes like a full week to fully harden. You should have somewhere secure that isn't going to be interrupted, that there's no dust to stick to the stuff, and that there's no one going in there to be exposed to the fumes for those 3 days. For me, I just used to do it at home and then put stuff in this little like storage shed that we had and that no one went in. That worked absolutely fine. When I moved to this house, we have a little shed, everything goes in there. Everyone I live with knows to not go in there for very long, you know, go in there, take a bike out, do not stay around in there. They're all absolutely fine with this. If you don't have a place like that, there is a couple of people who will do alternatives, like they use like these gas boxes and things, but I don't know how safe they are. You can look into that yourself, but just be aware that there is possibly a risk involved with that. Before you even start to think about buying the resin, the first thing I want you to buy is some sort of respirator, ventilator that will filter out the gases. So you need an organic filter. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I just bought the ones that people told me to buy, but you will need to cover your nose and your mouth, and it will need to filter out organic gases. I think it's like a carbon filter or something. I'm not an expert on this. Do your own research into this. I will link some resources down in the description. But yes, you definitely need a mask, and you definitely need gloves. Do not do this without gloves. So I've seen so many people saying that they don't like wearing the mask. I understand that. I think you should be wearing a mask anyway, but as long as you understand the risks and you choose not to wear it, sure. But you definitely need gloves because this stuff is sticky. Like, not even for safety reasons, just for practical reasons. You need gloves, because oh my god, I can't even imagine doing this without gloves. Like, my whole life will be sticky. Everything's a little bit sticky anyway, but like, you need gloves. So once you have researched these things and you have bought them and you've decided that you can still go ahead and do this, the first thing you need to do is buy some resin. So there's a couple different options for this. You can buy a UV resin. This usually is smaller. It's usually only used for small pieces. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but I've never used it personally myself. And you will cure it using a UV light. You still need to use a mask with this, you still need to use everything with it. I've also heard about people saying to wear sun cream if you're using a UV light, just because you can still get burns from it, and also still wearing gloves and whatever. Every normal rules apply. But UV resin cures almost immediately because you cure it with a UV light. Normal resin, so epoxy resin, you will use by mixing 2 parts together, and then you will like wait for it to cure, and it will cure over a couple of days, and depending on how long your resin takes to cure, some only take a day, some take a few days. I use glass cast 50. I don't really need 50, so the 50 refers to how deep you can pour the resin. This is also something that you need to think about. Now, in this scenario, we're just making earrings. So in the earrings, you will need not much deep for pouring depth. If we're going to use glass cast, which is the one that I use, and I would recommend using glass cast, you're only going to need 10, because you're never going to be pouring more than a 10mm like square. So that should be absolutely fine. I buy 50 because there is 1 or 2 things that I pour that are a little bit deeper, and also it's the same price, so it's just to be safe. The only difference is that the 50 will take a little bit longer to cure. That's fine by me, I don't mind that, but it's up to you. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to recommend glass cast 10. You are also going to need pigments of some kind, so I just use a normal pigment. It's in a little dropper, you squeeze it out, it goes into the resin, you mix it up, it tints the resin the colour that you want. There's different types that you can get, so you can get alcohol inks, which sort of spread a little bit more, you get a different sort of effect, or you can get mica powders, which usually tend to have a shimmery effect. You can paint them onto the mould. I would say that again for earrings you might just want to use normal pigments. I will link where I got my pigments down below. I will also maybe post this video in a group and see what they say about it, and let you know in the description recommendations that they have. Like, as they come in, I will update the description. You are also going to want something to put in the earrings, because this plain coloured earring is a little bit boring. You can go simple and start with glitter. I get glitter from, where did I get mine from? I think I got it from B&M Bargains. You can get it from Poundland. I think Sainsbury's sells it sometimes. Doesn't matter where you get your glitter from, just buy a glitter or something else that you want to put in your resin. Some other things that you're going to need to think about buying is the studs to attach to your earrings. I will link the ones that I use down in the description, but you can get them from Amazon dead easy. This is not a complicated thing. I would suggest using super glue to attach the studs to the earrings. I know a lot of people use resin, but the issue with doing this is that there is a very small window between when the resin is sticky enough to stick the stud to and when it is not cured enough so that when you put it in it'll just like sink straight through. If you are a beginner, it's probably just going to be easier to super glue it straight on. Don't use Gorilla Glue or anything like that. It doesn't dry clear. I've had no issues with super glue. I would recommend super glue. If you're going to be selling this, I would look into buying things like packaging, organza bags. So the packaging that I use is I have a business card that I back everything onto. I have a little organza bag that it goes into. I wrap it in a book page because it's just fun, and I ran out of fingers. And then I put it in a little bubble envelope to send off. That is what I use. It is up to you. Okay, so the last thing you need to think about is a mould. Moulds are pretty important when it comes to resin. You can't really do much without them. I have an earring mould that I use for most of my earrings. I will link it down in the description. But have a look, there is so many small sellers who do really funky moulds. You can have a look at Etsy. I'll link some Facebook groups in the description. Loads of people in there make moulds. Some of them are more expensive than others. If you're just starting out, might be good to get a cheaper one, see if you can get one second hand. But yeah, moulds are the key. You cannot really make a thing without a mould. There are some things that you can, but moulds. Something that's a little bit of a bonus that you might want to think about getting as well is a heat gun. A lot of people use this to pop bubbles when you mix the resin, which we'll get onto in a second. You will get little bubbles. You can use a heat gun over the resin to pop some of these bubbles. Some people also use a lighter, but I've heard that that can ruin the moulds quicker, so you might want to think about a heat gun. I use neither of these things. I find that glass cast you don't get that many bubbles, and to be honest they don't really bother me that much. I think they kind of add to the uniqueness of a piece, but I know a lot of people have like a war against bubbles, so you might want to look into getting a heat gun. Okay, now you have gathered all of your resources, or at least all the resources that I can think of. So go to your place that is well ventilated, that is away from everybody else, that no one's going to interrupt you, and you're going to start. Make sure you have your ventilator on, make sure you have your gloves on, make sure you have everything within reach, and you're ready to go. I've just remembered something else that you're going to need to buy. Sorry, there's a big long list. I did tell you it was expensive. You're going to need something to mix it into. I originally used plastic cups with little plastic stirry things. I didn't like all the use of plastic, so instead I bought some silicone cups. You just want anything that has measurements on it, or if you don't want to do it like that, you can do it by weight, and you'll need scales to do that. I like silicone cups and wooden sticks to mix everything together, and I will link where I got them from down in the description. So you need to mix your resin together. Look at the instructions on the pot. So the one that I use is 150. So you use 50 milliliters of hardener to 100 milliliters of the resin, or like whatever ratio you want to do. I usually do 20-10, but like it's up to you guys. I'm not very good at maths, so I tend to just have a list. I tend to just use the list of like pre-worked out ratios, and yeah, you want to mix it. Mixing is important. I got this wrong the first time around. You need to mix so carefully. You want to mix slowly because mixing is going to introduce the dreaded bubbles like we spoke about before, and you want to mix for a long time. It might look mixed, it's not mixed. I would mix it for a good like 3 to 5 minutes and do it slowly so that everything is 100% mixed together. This is such an important step. If you don't mix your stuff together, it either won't harden properly or you will get a thing that has like splotches of unmixed resin. You also want to make sure that the ratios are as accurate as you can get them. If you don't put enough hardener in, it can go like bendy, or sometimes if you put too much hardener in, it can harden in the pot. And you won't be able to use anything. I'm generalizing here. Resin is this weird extra entity, and sometimes weird things happen for no apparent reason. Sometimes the humidity in the place that you're doing it in, the temperature can affect things as well. So if something goes wrong, try again. Things will always go wrong. I do a batch about a day, and every day at least one thing will probably come out unusable because of various undetermined factors that I could go on about for ages, but yeah, that's the basic premise of it. I would then recommend pouring from the cup that you've mixed it in into another little silicone cup. This is because if you have any unmixed stuff around the edges, then that's like you're minimizing the chance of that ending up in your final piece. It's just good practice. You don't have to do that. It's good practice for a lot of things really, for like baking or other mixing chemical things. Just reduces the chance of you having unmixed stuff in there. You then want to put the pigment in, the glitter in, whatever you want to put into the thing, and carefully pour it into your mould. The amount that you fill your mould is important. If you overfill it, you will get a little dome, which is quite hard to get rid of. You can sandpaper it off, but we will get to that soon. And if you underfill it, you get like a little divot and you'll get a little lip. So try and get it as flat as possible. If you're worried about this, a little tip that I have is to overfill it and then push the resin off, and then it will go mostly flat. And anything that's extra, that's over the edge, quite often you can just like flick it off, like sort of pick it off at the end, but just make sure it's not too thick, because if it's too thick you will not be able to get it off, and then you'll get like a nice good finish on it on the end. So you've waited a few days, you have demolded, maybe you filmed a funky Instagram video because everyone loves a good demolding video. You have your earrings. Now what do you do with them? So if you have any extra bits that you want to sand off, you want to polish it, I personally don't sand because it is such a pain, both literally and figuratively. You have to use several grades of sandpaper working up and up and up, otherwise it will just go like scratched up and not great. You need to use a special type of polish as well. I'm not an expert on this. I would look in the groups to look it up because I do not do this. Personally, myself, I don't do it because I don't own a Dremel. And if you don't have a Dremel, you have to do it with hand. And if you look on my channel, and also if you know me in real life, you know that I have a disability which makes doing repetitive motion like that really painful because my joints don't work properly. So I only sandpaper if it is very necessary. So yeah, maybe try to avoid it in the first place, but if you need to, see the groups in the description and someone will be able to help you with that. I'm sorry I can't help with that. So I'm pretty sure that's everything. I'm pretty sure that brings you from the start to the end of making some resin earrings. You can scale this up to whatever you like. Look on Instagram, look in these groups, look on Pinterest, look on TikTok for all of these fantastic ideas that so many people have of amazing things that you can make. It really is a fantastic medium if you do it correctly, if you do it safely, and if you do your research. So yeah, definitely do not just watch this video, do some other things as well. I've probably missed stuff. Yeah, don't just watch this video, go off and look at some other places, but you could definitely do this if you do it correctly, and it is great fun and you can make so many amazing things. And hopefully maybe you guys will realise why I have to price things the way that I do in my shop, because of how hard it is and how long it takes to make these things. My pricing is pretty low, to be fair. Check out my Depop. Have I plugged my Depop yet? Look at my Depop, please. Thank you. Yes. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's everything. Good luck. If you do this, please let me know what you make. I'll be so excited to see your one-tone glittery earrings. Honestly, I'd just be excited to know if this is inspired any of you to start. Though maybe I shouldn't be inspiring people to start because the market's already flooded and I'm already trying to sell to people. Don't do this. Buy from me instead. What do my fingers do? Buy from me instead. Let's just end this video. Been filming for 20 minutes now. I'm so sorry, this is going to be really long. If you have any other tips or tricks about this, then write them down in the comments. If you have any requests or questions, then also leave them down in the comments. I make new videos every Wednesday. Like, subscribe and all that jazz. And I will see you next week. Bye bye.